gentlemen, we're going to pivot over to some baseball here because we're just a couple of weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting. Less than 3 weeks away from the first entire Rangers team workout. Baseball time is almost here.
Are you excited, Kevin, about going out to spring training?
Did I not sound excited?
No, yes, no, you actually do sound as excited as I've heard you sound about anything in a long time. But this is going to be our first trip out there without Mike since we started working with Mike. Now, we did that stuff before Mike, right? Like we went out there when we were a night show and we did this stuff all the time. But when we started the midday show, that was the first time we went into spring training and Mike was with us by that point. And so this is an interesting time because it was always fun to go out there with him and kind of, ask some questions of him, and he really enjoyed it a lot. But this is going to be a lot of fun because new manager, we got some players that we have some relationships with, and we have the chance that we might see one Mike Bask. I'm not sure about that, but we might see him around.
He'll be out there.
Maybe he'll take a picture with us or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, he's going to want to hang out for sure. Now, the question is, what will be Skip Schumaker's biggest challenge this season? I can certainly open it up to you guys because I wrote down 4 things that immediately come to mind. Do you want me to start firing them off and we can stop on whatever you want?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have a few also too as well.
All right, and by the way, in case you wanted to know, because I got the sense that you do, Skip Schumaker currently 18-1 in the American League, so that's the 8th best betting odds or 8th worst if you think about it, to win American League Manager of the Year. So just wanted to throw that out there for you. My number 1 is the health of Corey Seager and managing that, because as you could tell by some of the segments that we've already done leading into baseball season, it feels like there's a massive amount of concern about the Rangers lineup. And so if you take the most consistent, most feared threat in that lineup and know that he's going to miss some time, but how much time is he going to miss and what do your lineups look like without him? I feel like that might be my number 1.
Yeah, I completely understand that because he is – you don't have Adolis in there anymore either. And I know Adolis the last 2 seasons wasn't reliable, but there was when you were at your best, he was. And so not having him in the lineup as the potential threat, who is going to protect Corey Seager, or is Corey Seager now the protector? And then, as you said, he's the bat that you fear the most whenever you look at that lineup. You say, how do we pitch so we don't have to deal with him? How do we get these guys out, or we don't want to put people on base because of this. So having him around does put that fear in there, and his health, Kevin, it's been a problem. And so it felt like it was a bit of a problem for Bochy too, in that, how do I manage it? What do I push him a little too hard and then he gets hurt even more? Do I take the foot off the pedal with him? What exactly do I do? Because I got to try to figure out how to treat him the same as everybody, but also treat him differently.
If you're in that room now, I would assume you would not want to have this conversation with Corey Seager. That feels like that would be disrespectful. But if you're in that room, do you go ahead and say, all right, we know he's going to miss at least 30 games. What is going to be our game plan when that happens?
If you're the managing group and you're talking to your GM's experienced this. He's taken the frustration. President of baseball operations. The GM knows the same thing too. You have to have that. You have to have that discussion. And I think the discussion in the past has been, hey, let's just roll Josh Smith in there, or Ezekiel Duran. Let's just put a guy over there and hope we can get through it for the time being. Well, Kevin, quite honestly, I would consider the young player and maybe bringing him up for a spell here and there just to get the experience.
Is the young player Sebastian Walcott? Is that
the young player is Sebastian Walcott? That would be that would be something I would consider at this point.
Okay. And you know what's interesting? I would like to see that too, just because the Rangers continue with Walcott at shortstop. So, I mean, that would make sense, but, we were going to talk about this a little bit later. We can go ahead and kick it around a little bit right now. Kylie McDaniel, who we've had on the show and is a huge proponent of Sebastian Walcott, suggested that, like, while Walcott's plate discipline and swing and miss ratio is just tremendous for his age, you saw a very, like, mediocre season at Double-A in terms of especially power and stuff. And so the thought is kind of like Adolis, I think at the beginning of last year, if not it was 2 years ago, was sacrificing some of his power for caution at the plate. And so Kylie McDaniel, who again, huge fan of Sebastian Walcott, suggested just leaving Walcott at Double-A all year to see if he can put together like a season that wows you, because you know how like sometimes prospects will get moved up because they're like, oh my gosh, they have all the innate physical tools, we got to move them up, let's go. Or sometimes it's just, did you see the numbers that kid put together? That's preposterous. Like, we can't leave him at that level. So Kylie McDaniel has suggested, hey, why don't you just leave him there for the year and see how it goes?
Yeah, there's that Connor Griffin, thing where you're just like, you can't do anything but move him up.
For sure. That's a great example.
Yeah, and then I think Mike would look at that as, and I've always been with Mike on this, he grew up in an era where you had to earn the major leagues.
Yes.
And he loved seeing that the Rangers were kind of pushing people into that. Jack Leiter, hey, look, you're going to go to Double and Triple-A and earn your way up before we just anoint that to you. And I always appreciated that when Mike would bring that into the discussion, because the Rangers, when under John Daniels for a long time, did kind of push guys quicker than they probably needed to be at the times.
And like, is it okay if I jump ahead to the next point while I'm thinking about it?
Sure.
Okay, because one of my concerns has kind of sort of been addressed. One of the things that I wrote down when we originally talked about this was maintaining the older pitching staff. And now with the move for Mackenzie Gore, I'm not saying like, hey, everybody on our pitching staff is super young, but like, now you do feel like you have that 3-4 combination of Gore and Leiter and Gore, if that is the way you prefer it, of two really young pitchers that we have high hopes for to balance out, obviously, your older pitchers in DeGrom and Eovaldi. And so that does make me feel somewhat better, but with Eovaldi, he feels kind of sort of similar to Seager in terms of you're going to have to be like, hey, he's going to miss some time. What do we do when that happens?
Yeah, and DeGrom, as he made it through a season, how many more of those is left, and his pitching style, and so you got a big question mark with some of those veterans. That's the gamble you play at this point.
And then from the 806, the Gore trade got me a little bit more excited, but I don't know, man. I'm just not pumped for the season yet. The lack of aggressive offensive moves has me kind of bummed. And, Corey, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like that is a very understandable point of view that I share as well. Yeah,
I mean, trying to create runs with the same thing you had last year, which lacked runs. And so that's something where I'm like, okay, what's the difference? Well, what does Skip Schumaker have that he's going to change that completely? Is there a different approach? Is he a different motivator? He's being told you're getting essentially the same thing we had, but you have to manufacture it in a different way. So that is a concern for me. The excitement of it is baseball is going to be exciting. I'm going to be excited about the baseball part of it. I just want to see how they're going to navigate this. The flight of this navigator is exactly what I'm looking for right now. Kevin, you mind if I throw in one thing? This has always stuck with me, and this is, again, the question is, what's Skip Schumaker's biggest challenge this season? I'd love to hear from the Tolos on this. We loved Ron Washington, just loved Ron Washington. Great person to us and all that. Then the first time we heard Jeff Bannister speak, we were like, that dude right there, I'll follow that guy. He immediately captivated our audience and then had a pretty good run to start things off. Then Bruce Bochy arrives.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy crap, you won a World Series. You're this guy. I think one of the biggest things that Schumacher's going to run into is he is not Bochy. And that this is something that kind of, as I was thinking about it more, like, when will he become your manager? What is he going to do? What can he do? Because Bochy did it immediately for us. Like the credentials, everything that he came with, bam, we were like, that's my manager. I'll listen to that dude any time. I know we had our first interview with Skip. He was awesome. I love talking to him. But there's going to be that moment of, how do you lead? How do you as the manager lead, but also allow your guys to control that clubhouse and lead themselves? So him not being Bochy, I think, is going to be something that Rangers fans kind of always hold against him, because what do they always say? You don't want to be the guy following the guy. And,
right.
And so that's one of the things I think that could stand in his way.
Now, you never like to see this kind of feedback from the national media, but did you see the tier that The Athletic put the Texas Rangers in?
Oh, was it running down the side of somebody's cheek?
No, not that kind of tier, but I that's very clever. TIER, and that tier that they're in is, quote, doing what exactly? Okay. And then that's the title of the tier, and it said the Texas Rangers. Maybe the pieces fit a little bit better, Nimmo and catcher Danny Jansen in place of Simeon and Garcia, but it feels more like shuffling than adding. The Rangers signed some relievers, but then they lost Tyler Mahle and Patrick Corbin. Remember, this is the last non-Dodgers team to win a World Series, and that's kind of how I feel too about Nimmo and Jansen, and I'm hoping that Nimmo works out great. But there are some people out there that are acting like Nimmo is Corey Seager B, and I just think that is pure foolishness, or there is nothing that you've seen as of late that should lead us to believe that. Now, if it happens, hell yeah, I'll tell everybody, sorry I didn't believe more in Nimmo, and I'm hoping he fits better, but he had his own issues that sent him out of New York.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of years ago, Kevin, when I was watching him play, and I was like, I'll take this dude on my roster anytime. He can play in my outfield, and I don't care about that is what managers have to deal with, is things that go on in a clubhouse. So that is something else that he's going to have to deal with. But I liked the hustle. I wish I was one of those guys that could just be like, I'm a manager. You hustle, you hit hard, you throw hard, you do all the things I ask of you on the field. We don't have to worry about anything else. But humans exist whenever they are in tight quarters together, and they kind of have to live together, right? Like they do that for 162. They go on the road a lot. But when I watched him play, I love the hustle in the outfield. If he can be a gritty hitter for this team, a gritty leadoff hitter that makes a lot of pitches happen and gets on base, and then is able to be a scary person on base with Wyatt Langford and Corey Seager behind him, then he can be effective. But he's got to prove that to me too. I think that you have to prove it first.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. The good news is we got a couple more weeks before pitchers and catchers report, and there's always things that you see in spring training that might give you that irrational extra little bit of hope. By the way, I forgot to mention this. Somebody asked about Cody Bradford. Cody Bradford is set to hopefully be back in May, but it usually feels like with pitching injuries and returns, you can usually kick that back about a month or so. So my thought and hope would be that you see him back by June, but clearly, if that's the case, you got a lot of baseball to play before he even gets back and gets into the mix.